Breakfast has always been called the most important meal of the day. But in America, it's also been one of the most experimental. From sugar-packed cereals to frozen egg disasters, companies have pushed the limits of what families would eat in the morning. Some of these breakfasts became legends, while others were banned, forgotten, or quietly pulled from shelves. Today, we're looking back at 30 banned American breakfast foods you'll never see again. Each one tells a story, not just about food, but about the times we lived in. Imagine pouring a bowl of cereal in the morning, expecting the comforting taste of corn or oats, only to be hit with the tangy, citrus punch of orange juice. That's exactly what Kellogg's offered in the 1980s with one of its strangest creations, OJ's cereal. In the 1980s, cereal companies were locked in what many called the sugar wars, battling to capture children's attention with the most outrageous flavors, mascots, and colors. Kellogg's decided to innovate by targeting the breakfast drink itself. Why not combine orange juice, a staple of the American morning table, with cereal? The result was OJ's, a crunchy, orange-flavored cereal meant to deliver the taste of citrus in every bite. At first, the idea sounded clever. Orange juice was already seen as healthy, filled with vitamin C, and tied to the image of the all-American breakfast. Parents thought they were giving their kids something nutritious, while children were lured in by the cartoon cowboy mascot, O.J. Joe, who promised a cereal with the taste of orange juice. It was colorful, it was new, and for a brief moment, it caught national attention. But the reality was different. The cereal's sharp, acidic tang clashed with the sweetness of milk, creating a flavor most kids found strange and unpleasant. Reviews were brutal. Children complained it made their milk taste sour, and many parents felt misled by the health claims. Within just a couple of years, OJ's cereal vanished from shelves, remembered today only as one of Kellogg's boldest, and perhaps strangest, missteps in cereal history. And while orange juice cereal may have disappeared quickly, it was far from the only breakfast experiment that went too far. In fact, our next item was a cereal that seemed much more familiar, but despite its popularity, it too eventually vanished. Imagine breakfast with tiny waffle-shaped cereal that smelled like syrup. It was like having a diner stacked into a bowl of milk. Released in the mid-1990s, Post tried to cash in on waffle nostalgia. Its cartoon ads made it a kid's dream, with mascots hyping syrupy crunch. Parents liked the familiarity of waffles, while kids loved the candy-like sweetness. It gave the morning a carnival feel, comfort wrapped in sugar. But health critics attacked it as pure sugar in disguise. By the 2000s, pressure on junk cereals pushed it out of most stores. Waffle Crisp's sweet scent lingers in memory. Yet unlike some cereals that vanished forever, others returned in stranger ways, like our next entry. Imagine grabbing a complete breakfast in bar form, milk, cereal, and vitamins all pressed together in one chewy bite. Launched in the 1970s, Carnation promised these bars could replace a sit-down breakfast. Ads claimed you didn't need eggs or toast anymore. Busy parents loved the convenience, and kids enjoyed the sweet, candy-like flavor. It felt futuristic, nutrition on the go. But critics warned the bars were mostly sugar and fillers. By the late 1980s, the healthy image crumbled and sales vanished. Carnation's idea was ahead of its time, but too sweet for trust. Our next breakfast item was strange for a different reason. It came from overseas. In the 1980s, Saturday mornings meant cartoons, toys, and a neon green cereal inspired by Ghostbusters. Launched in 1985 by Ralston, the cereal had marshmallow ghosts and a bright, sugary crunch. Ads tied it directly to the blockbuster movie and cartoon. Kids loved eating their favorite movie for breakfast. The cereal box even doubled as a collectible, with games and cutouts. But parents pushed back. Critics claimed the cereal was nothing but sugar in disguise, fueling hyperkids before school. By 1990, it vanished. Ghostbusters cereal may be gone, but it wasn't the only branded breakfast that stirred controversy. Our next one turned pink, literally. Dessert for breakfast, graham-flavored pieces, chocolate bits, and marshmallow puffs, campfire nostalgia poured straight into a bowl. Born from a brand tie-in, this cereal rode the 90s/2000s craze for candy aisle crossovers, selling S-More's fun with tent graphics and campfire ads. Kids loved the crunchy gooey mix and recognizable Hershey name. Parents saw a treat that felt familiar, festive, and easy on rushed mornings. Nutrition watchdogs blasted it as candy in disguise. Sugar counts, school guidelines, and parent backlash shrank shelf space, then it quietly disappeared. If candy for breakfast raised eyebrows, our next entry pushed convenience even further. Cereal, milk, and spoon bundled in one controversial box. In the late 90s, Kellogg's tried a bold idea, a ready-to-eat kit with cereal, milk, and even a spoon in one box. Breakfast Mates launched as a convenience product. No fridge needed. The milk was shelf-stable, sealed in tiny cartons, meant for busy families. It promised breakfast anywhere, anytime. Kids liked the novelty, while parents saw it as a modern solution for mornings on the run. But many found the milk odd-tasting, and critics slammed it as over-processed. Sales tanked, and Breakfast Mates quietly vanished. Kellogg's attempt at total convenience fizzled, but our next banned breakfast had a different problem. It came with a toy surprise. In the 1960s, Post promised a powerhouse breakfast with its fortified oat flakes, oats boosted with extra vitamins and minerals. The cereal was marketed as a healthier rival to sugary kids' brands. Ads showed strong athletes and families choosing it for energy and balance. Parents bought into the fortified label, trusting it as both modern and nutritious. It became a middle ground choice between bland oats and candy cereals. But the cereal was bland, dense, and unappealing to kids. Sales collapsed, and by the 1970s, it disappeared quietly from shelves. Oat Flakes aimed for health but lost the flavor battle. Our next cereal went the opposite direction, leaning fully into sugary chaos. In the early 1990s, General Mills went wild, introducing Sprinkle Spangles, a cereal coated with colorful candy sprinkles. Marketed with a cartoon genie mascot, the cereal promised magic in every bite. It was sugary, flashy, and aimed straight at kids. The sprinkles gave it instant playground buzz. Kids begged for it, while parents tolerated it as a novelty breakfast treat. But critics blasted it as pure junk food. Sales dropped fast, and by the mid-1990s, Sprinkle Spangles disappeared almost overnight. It was breakfast disguised as candy, yet our next banned food tried the opposite, pretending to be a full meal in powdered form. In the 1960s, Carnation promised a revolution. Just mix their powder with milk, and you had a complete breakfast in a glass. Marketed to busy families, it was packed with vitamins and marketed as better than toast or cereal. Ads showed smiling moms serving it to kids. It was cheap, quick, and felt futuristic. Parents liked the convenience, while kids enjoyed the chocolate or vanilla milkshake flavors. But critics argued it was little more than flavored sugar with vitamins. Over time, health concerns forced reformulation, losing its original charm. Instant breakfast showed America's taste for convenience, but our next cereal aimed higher, blasting off into the sugar-fueled space race. In the 1960s, breakfast went intergalactic with Quisp, a sugary corn cereal fronted by a quirky alien mascot. Quaker pitched it as part of the space race craze, with ads featuring cartoons of Quisp battling his rival Quake in zany TV spots. Kids adored the comic book energy and free toys hidden inside the box, making Quisp as much about fun as food. But by the late 70s, the sugar wars claimed another victim. Parents turned away, and Quisp vanished from most shelves. Quisp showed how wild marketing could sell sugar to kids, but our next cereal tried a sweeter twist by mixing bananas with an old classic. In the late 80s, Kellogg's gave its famous Frosted Flakes a wild twist, banana flavoring baked right into the flakes. Riding the wave of fruit-flavored cereals, Kellogg's hoped banana would stand out in a crowded breakfast aisle dominated by sugar-heavy rivals. Kids curious about new flavors tried it, and Tony the Tiger roared about how bananas were great, even if reviews were mixed. The artificial banana taste turned many away, earning it a reputation as one of Kellogg's biggest misfires, disappearing quickly from shelves. But if bananas couldn't save Frosted Flakes, maybe video games could. Our next cereal was all about Mario, Zelda, and Saturday mornings. Imagine opening your cereal box and finding not just one breakfast, but two. Mario on one side, Zelda on the other. The Nintendo cereal system wasn't just food, it was a cultural event at the breakfast table. Launched in the late 1980s, during the height of Nintendo mania, Ralston capitalized on kids' obsession with video games. Each box split into two bags, fruity Mario cereal and berry-flavored Zelda cereal. It was breakfast and branding rolled into one. Nintendo cereal became a playground brag. Kids would compare flavors, trade box art, and collect the freebies hidden inside. For many, it turned Saturday mornings into a full Nintendo experience. Cartoons, video games, and cereal all in sync. But the taste didn't live up to the hype. Many kids complained the cereals went stale quickly, and the flavors blended in odd ways. Despite the branding power, it was pulled from shelves after only a short run, becoming a collector's item today. And while Nintendo cereal burned brightly and briefly, another cereal tried to promise something very different. Nutrition packed into tiny, concentrated flakes. That's where Kellogg's Concentrate comes in. It wasn't colorful, fun, or sweet. In fact, it barely looked like cereal. Kellogg's Concentrate promised to pack all the nutrition kids needed into the tiniest flakes you'd ever seen. Released in the 1960s, Concentrate came in a small, no-frills box. Unlike sugary competitors, it was marketed as futuristic food, designed for busy families and kids who needed scientific nutrition with every spoonful. Parents loved the idea. Just a small serving supposedly gave children all the vitamins of a big breakfast. Some kids even sprinkled it on top of other cereals, turning it into a kind of health booster before school. But its bland, cardboard-like taste was unforgettable, and not in a good way. Kids hated it, and despite Kellogg's futuristic pitch, it disappeared quickly. Today, it's remembered as one of the strangest cereal experiments ever. And if Kellogg's tried to make cereal healthier, Post went the other direction. Their Golden Crisp packed in so much sugar, it raised alarms, and earned a reputation as candy in a box. Marketed as the sweetest cereal in history, Post Golden Crisp was more candy than breakfast. Kids loved it, parents worried, and nutritionists sounded alarms about the sugar. Introduced in the 1940s as Sugar Crisp, it featured 3 cartoon bears. Post proudly highlighted its sweetness, bragging it could be eaten for breakfast, snacks, or dessert. Children adored its puffed wheat coated in sticky sugar. Commercials made it look irresistible, and Saturday mornings felt incomplete without a bowl of these crunchy golden puffs. But the sugar content was staggering, nearly 50% sugar by weight. Health experts called it dangerous, and over time, Post quietly rebranded and toned down the recipe. Golden Crisp showed sugar's power to sell cereal. But not every idea relied on sweetness. Some tried to turn breakfast into waffles in a bowl, like Eggo cereal. Eggo wasn't just frozen waffles. In the early 2000s, Kellogg's tried shrinking them into bite-sized cereal pieces, promising waffles in a bowl with milk. The cereal launched with bold marketing, waffle-shaped pieces, maple flavoring, and even ads tying it to the classic frozen breakfast brand kids already knew. Kids loved the novelty. It looked like tiny waffles floating in milk, and parents saw it as a fun twist on a beloved morning staple. But the flavor fell flat. Many said it tasted artificial, lacking the warmth of real waffles. Sales plummeted, and the first version quietly vanished. Eggo cereal's early failure showed branding wasn't enough. Another breakfast experiment soon followed, this time turning sugary yogurt into a supposed meal, Trix yogurt packs. In the 1990s, breakfast blurred with dessert. Trix yogurt packs promised a quick meal, with neon swirls of color that looked more like candy than morning fuel. Launched as part of the sugary cereal craze, these small cups paired cartoon mascots with sweet, fruit-flavored yogurt. They were marketed as fun breakfast on the go for busy families. Kids loved tearing open the packs, mixing colors, and seeing bright pinks, purples, and greens swirl together. For children, it felt less like breakfast, more like a treat. But beneath the colors, each cup packed staggering sugar. Critics argued it was candy in disguise. Sales faded, and soon, the rainbow breakfast disappeared from shelves. And while yogurt masqueraded as breakfast, another banned food leaned into sweetness unapologetically. Kellogg's Cinnabon cereal, mini cinnamon rolls coated with sugar. Breakfast once promised the joy of cinnamon rolls, shrunk into cereal bowls. Cinnabon cereal hit shelves with sugary swirls, instantly tempting kids and adults alike with the fantasy of eating dessert for breakfast. Launched in the early 1990s, it partnered with the popular mall bakery chain. Marketed as fresh from the oven in bite-sized form, it seemed futuristic. Mini cinnamon rolls packaged with the convenience of everyday cereal. Kids loved the rich cinnamon sugar crunch. Parents, nostalgic for mall Cinnabon visits, found comfort in its sweetness. It felt like indulgence at the breakfast table, a decadent escape from bland corn flakes. Health critics soon condemned it. Each bowl rivaled dessert in sugar and calories. By the mid-2000s, mounting backlash forced reformulation, and the original indulgent recipe quietly disappeared from shelves. Though short-lived, Cinnabon cereal embodied the era's sugar-fueled optimism. From cinnamon rolls, the spotlight soon shifted to cupcakes, leading us directly into another fleeting sugary experiment, Post-Cupcake Pebbles. Breakfast turned into dessert when Post unveiled Cupcake Pebbles, tiny cereal pieces coated with sugary frosting flavor. Kids were dazzled, but adults wondered if mornings had gone too far. Emerging from the success of Fruity Pebbles, this spin-off leaned into America's cupcake craze. Bright boxes promised party-like mornings, aligning with a culture that embraced indulgence after wartime restraint. Children adored it. Bowls sparkled like confetti, and every spoonful tasted like birthday cake. Ads framed it as fun, exciting, and a way to make everyday mornings feel special. Health experts recoiled. With sugar content rivaling desserts, parents soon grew wary. Critics warned it blurred the line between breakfast and candy, fueling debates about marketing excess to children. By the time shelves cleared, the cupcake craze faded. But the question lingered: what would sugary cereal makers try next? That answer came with yet another sweet experiment: tiny donuts. Imagine waking up to a bowl of tiny donuts. Powdered donuts cereal promised bakery sweetness at breakfast, sugar-dusted rings that looked playful but raised questions about how far breakfast indulgence should go. Launched in the 1980s but echoing post-war America's sweet obsession, these donut-shaped bites capitalized on the nation's growing love for convenient, dessert-like breakfasts. They brought the fairground treat straight into family kitchens. Kids adored the frosting-like dust coating every piece. It felt rebellious, like sneaking donuts before school. Advertisers leaned into fun, showing cartoons dunking the tiny rings in milk with gleeful abandon. Parents weren't as thrilled. Nutritionists warned the cereal was nearly pure sugar, likening it to candy in disguise. Sales waned as public pressure mounted, and soon the powdered rings quietly disappeared. The lesson was clear: turning desserts into breakfast rarely lasted. Yet that didn't stop cereal makers from trying again, with Pop-Tarts shrunk down into crunchy, over-the-top bowls of sweetness. Imagine your favorite toaster pastry, but shrunk into a bowl of cereal. Sweeter, crunchier, and banned from many schools for being basically candy in disguise. Released in the 1990s, Pop-Tarts Crunch mimicked the flavors of frosted Pop-Tarts, but in bite-sized cereal form. It hit shelves during an era when sugary cereals ruled. Kids adored it because it felt rebellious, eating dessert for breakfast with their parents' reluctant approval. Every spoonful carried the frosting-coated crunch that made it instantly addictive. Health critics slammed it as pure sugar bombs. Some schools even banned it outright from cafeterias, making it one of the few cereals parents and officials united against. While Pop-Tarts Crunch was pulled quickly, its legacy lives on in nostalgia. Next, we'll look at post-oatmeal swirlers, a cereal accessory that gave kids way too much control. Picture a plain bowl of oatmeal, but with a packet of syrup that let kids draw shapes, swirls, or even silly faces right on top. Released in the late 1980s, oatmeal swirlers came with strawberry, maple, or brown sugar syrups. It promised fun breakfasts, but parents quickly grew suspicious. Kids loved the creativity. Breakfast became playful, every bowl a doodle. It felt like combining art class with food, and it made mornings less boring. The syrup was nearly pure sugar, and parents revolted. Nutrition groups declared it candy for breakfast, leading to its short shelf life. Oatmeal swirlers vanished quickly, but the idea of candy-like breakfasts lived on. Next up, Kellogg's S'mores cereal, one of the most controversial of them all. Imagine S'mores shrunk into a cereal box, gooey marshmallow, chocolate, and graham packed into bite-sized squares, and sold as breakfast. Introduced in the early 2000s, S'mores was Kellogg's bold attempt to turn campfire desserts into cereal. Kids loved it instantly, parents weren't so sure. It felt like a treat at dawn, sweet, crunchy, chocolatey, with that marshmallow hit. For kids, it was candy cleverly disguised as cereal. Critics slammed it. Nutritionists called it a sugar bomb unfit for mornings. Schools even rejected it outright, giving S'mores a reputation as a banned breakfast. Though short-lived, S'mores remains a nostalgic memory. Next, we'll explore Ralston Dinosaurs, a cereal that brought the 1950s diner vibe into the breakfast bowl. Picture a cereal box styled like a 1950s diner, complete with flavor nuggets that promised surprise tastes in every bite. Released in the late 1980s, Dinosaurs tried to combine diner nostalgia with fun dinosaur mascots. It was an odd mix of themes that puzzled shoppers. Kids loved the quirky mascot and crunchy bites. The flavor nuggets gave an unexpected pop, making breakfast feel like a little game of discovery. But the taste was inconsistent. Some bites were overly sweet, others bland. Confusion killed the brand quickly, leaving it one of Ralston's strangest experiments. Though short-lived, Dinosaurs is remembered for its diner flair. Next, we'll look at Kellogg's Breakfast Squares, an early attempt at grab-and-go mornings. There was a time when Kellogg's tried something unusual: breakfast squares. A halfway invention between a toaster pastry and a cereal bar, it promised the convenience of breakfast on the go, yet felt strangely out of place. Introduced in the 1970s, these squares were chewy, dense, and marketed as portable fuel for busy mornings. Unlike Pop-Tarts or cereals, they lacked the fun factor. More practical than joyful, more filler than food memory. For a brief moment, parents appreciated the convenience. No bowls, no toasters, no milk, just unwrap and eat. Kids, however, found them bland compared to colorful cereals or sweet pastries. Breakfast squares were practical, but never beloved. Their disappearance didn't spark protests. Instead, they simply faded away. Forgotten in cupboards and overshadowed by brighter, louder options, they vanished quietly, one of the rare Kellogg's products to leave no nostalgic trail behind. From a square that no one missed, we turn to something far more beloved, one of America's most playful breakfasts, a sugar-coated bowl of letters that once helped children learn their ABCs, Post alphabets. There was a time when learning your ABCs came with a spoonful of sugar. Post's alphabets turned breakfast into play, with sweet-coated letters floating in bowls across America. Launched in 1958, Alphabets capitalized on education and fun. Parents liked its learning angle, while kids loved fishing letters to spell names. Early commercials sold it as wholesome, even though sugar made up much. In school cafeterias, children bragged about finding letters to spell whole words. It wasn't just cereal, it was entertainment, a sugary alphabet soup of crunchy childhood memories. By the 1970s, critics saw through the charm. Nutritionists warned of cavities, sugar crashes, and misleading, healthy marketing. Post quietly reformulated, stripping away the sweetest version kids remembered most. Alphabet survived in reduced forms but never recaptured its magic. The sugar-coated letters faded away, making room for the next breakfast experiment, Cheerios with a surprising twist of yogurt. In the early 2000s, Cheerios took a bold turn. Yogurt Burst Cheerios promised sweetness and health, with frosted rings coated in creamy yogurt glaze, an experiment that felt modern, yet short-lived. Cheerios had always been the healthy choice, plain and heart-friendly. But to compete with sugar-packed cereals, General Mills added a yogurt twist in 2005. Parents hoped it was nutritious. Kids loved the frosting. For a brief moment, Yogurt Burst Cheerios looked like the perfect compromise. They offered familiarity with a fun glaze, and breakfast bowls suddenly felt more like desserts dressed as health food. Nutritionists pushed back quickly. The yogurt coating was little more than sugar with flavoring. Families realized their healthy cereal packed as much sugar as candy, and shelves cleared of the experiment soon after. Cheerios returned to basics, leaving Yogurt Burst a forgotten experiment. But while it faded, another cereal mascot was waiting in the wings, a furry monster named Fruit Brute, ready to steal the stage. In the monster cereal lineup, Fruit Brute stood apart. With fruity marshmallows and bold colors, it joined Count Chocula and Frankenberry, yet quickly became the forgotten monster of the breakfast table. Launched in 1974, Fruit Brute rode the wave of monster-themed cereals. Kellogg's pitched it as fun and colorful, with wild advertising. But against chocolate and berry favorites, it struggled to find loyalty. Kids loved the marshmallows, bright, fruity bursts in every bowl. The werewolf mascot added excitement, and cereal aisles buzzed with monster mania. For some, Fruit Brute became a quirky badge of childhood rebellion. Sales lagged, and by 1982, Fruit Brute was discontinued. Many kids never noticed its disappearance, but those who did remembered it fondly as the cereal that vanished before it ever truly fit in. While Fruit Brute faded into cereal history, the 1980s brought new experiments. Some were even stranger, like Carnation's bold attempt to make frozen scrambled eggs a toaster-ready breakfast. Imagine sliding frozen scrambled eggs into your toaster. Yes, that was once considered breakfast innovation. In the late 1970s, Carnation introduced toaster eggs, a frozen product meant to rival toaster pastries. The idea was simple: scrambled eggs baked into bread that could be heated directly in the toaster. The product tapped into America's growing obsession with quick breakfasts. Parents juggling jobs and busy kids loved the promise of a hot, protein-packed meal ready in minutes, no frying pan required. But the reality was less appetizing. The eggs often cooked unevenly, leaving one side burnt and the other cold. Worse yet, the strange texture and smell turned kids off immediately. Most families tried them once and never bought again. Carnation toaster eggs quickly vanished, becoming a food experiment lost to time. But as bizarre as they were, they paved the way for other novelty cereals and fad foods. And few were as eye-catching as a certain pink box inspired by a famous cartoon cat. Picture pouring a bowl of pink, sugar-coated cornflakes inspired by a cartoon cat. Post thought it would be the next big breakfast craze. Launched in the mid-1970s, Pink Panther flakes tied into the wildly popular Pink Panther cartoon. The cereal was bright pink, eye-catching, and marketed heavily toward kids glued to Saturday morning TV. Children loved the novelty of pink cereal, and parents often gave in to the fun packaging. It briefly rode the wave of character-driven cereals that dominated store shelves at the time. But the flavor didn't live up to the hype, essentially just frosted cornflakes with food coloring. Once the Pink Panther cartoon faded from popularity, so did the cereal, disappearing almost overnight. While Pink Panther flakes vanished as quickly as the fad that fueled them, the late 90s saw another experiment, one that tried to harness the growing energy drink craze in cereal form. In the late 1990s, Wheaties tried to reinvent itself with an energy cereal that promised fuel for the modern lifestyle. Energy Crunch was launched as a high-protein, vitamin-fortified spin-off of the classic Wheaties. It aimed to capture the booming health and energy drink market of the era. For a brief moment, it appealed to adults looking for something beyond sugary kid cereals. With bold packaging and a performance fuel angle, it stood out on shelves. But most consumers found it dry, bland, and gimmicky. It couldn't match the nostalgia of classic Wheaties or the taste of mainstream cereals, vanishing within just a few years. Energy Crunch marked the end of our countdown, a reminder of how America's breakfast table has always been a battleground between fun, flavor, and fads. Many lost to time, never to return. And there you have it, 30 banned American breakfast foods, each one a strange reminder of how creative, risky, and sometimes reckless our food industry has been. From pink cereals to toaster eggs, these forgotten breakfasts show us how trends come and go, but nostalgia never fades. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to subscribe for more stories, because sometimes, the meals we've lost tell us just as much as the ones we still share today.